The elegant rooftop restaurant of a Chicago high-rise glowed with golden lights as the sun set behind the skyline. Waiters in crisp uniforms carried trays of champagne flutes, while violins played softly in the background. At a private corner table, Alexander Hayes, a 36-year-old single dad and CEO of a rising tech empire, adjusted his tie and glanced at the clock on his phone. His friends had finally convinced him to go on a blind date after years of throwing himself into work and raising his 8-year-old daughter alone. He wasn't sure he was ready, but he was here, hoping maybe life had something unexpected in store. Meanwhile, across the city, Emily Carter rushed down the street, breathless. At 24, she was juggling graduate classes, 2 part-time jobs, and rent she could barely afford. The blind date wasn't meant for her. It was meant for her older sister, Claire, beautiful, confident, and obsessed with marrying rich. But when Claire decided the CEO sounded boring, she forced Emily to go in her place. "Just sit through dinner and leave," Claire had said casually, tossing Emily a navy dress from her closet. It's no big deal. For Emily, it was a very big deal. She wasn't from Alexander's world. She was here because she couldn't say no to her sister, not because she belonged at a restaurant where glasses of wine cost more than her week's groceries. When she stepped into the glittering rooftop space, she immediately felt out of place. Her dress was simple, her shoes worn. Heads turned as she followed the hostess to the corner table. Alexander looked up, expecting the glamorous woman his friends had described. Instead, he saw Emily, her nervous eyes, her flushed cheeks, and her quiet presence. "You must be Claire," he said politely. Though his sharp instincts told him something was off, Emily hesitated before blurting out the truth. "Actually, I'm Emily. Claire couldn't make it," Alexander arched an eyebrow. Normally, this would have been enough to make him walk away. But instead of spinning a lie, this young woman had confessed immediately. He admired that. "So Claire sent her sister?" he asked carefully. Emily nodded, embarrassed. "I can leave if you'd prefer. I know this isn't what you expected." To her surprise, Alexander gestured for her to sit. "If you came all this way, the least I can do is buy you dinner." The first few minutes were awkward, Emily clutching her water glass like a lifeline. But slowly the conversation shifted. Alexander asked about her studies, her work, her dreams. Emily spoke about wanting to become a teacher, about working late shifts at a diner to pay tuition, about how life wasn't easy, but she was determined to make it on her own. Unlike other men who were dazzled by Claire's charm, Alexander actually listened. He leaned forward, genuinely intrigued, his sharp CEO aura softening as she spoke. For the first time in years, he felt like he wasn't being measured against his bank account. Emily had no idea what his world was really like, and she didn't seem to care. When dessert arrived, Emily's courage faded again. She pushed back her chair and stood, clutching her purse. "Thank you for dinner, Mr. Hayes. I should go." Alexander rose too, his deep voice steady but warm. "Don't," Emily froze. "You walked in here ready to leave the moment you sat down," Alexander continued. "But Emily, I don't want this night to end yet." Her eyes widened. "But I'm not the one you were supposed to meet." He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Maybe not. But maybe you're the one I was meant to meet." The words hit her harder than she expected. For a moment, the noise of the restaurant faded away. Emily had spent years feeling like the second choice, the backup plan, the girl who filled in when her sister didn't want to. Yet here was a man who saw her, not the polished version of her sister, but her. Something unspoken passed between them as the city lights twinkled through the glass walls. Emily didn't know where this night would lead, but for the first time in her life she felt chosen, and Alexander, the man who never let anyone close, realized he didn't want to let her leave.